The comment section for my video about the $2 a yard Joann's Craft fabric and what you could do with it has been all kinds of fun. Viewers had lots of suggestions and ideas of what to do with low quality fabric. And I decided I'm going to compile that all into one video. So if you have some problem fabric in your stash, maybe we can give you some ideas on how to actually use it up. I'm Michelle. This is my romantic tangle. I have been quilting for about 20 years now, and I sewed off and on before that. I have a fabric stash, and I've got some oddball things that just are seemingly impossible to use. So let's talk about getting rid of it. And the first and most obvious thing is make educated choices in the first place when you are buying fabric. In my experience, my own problem fabrics have come from bags from the thrift store or estate sales where I didn't get to pick each and every piece myself. I also have pieces of fabric that were given to me. I have fabric where I just made a bad choice. And some of those bad choices were not cheap fabrics. So it is not always a case of buy what you can afford, buy the best and it will be fine. My mom had a 3-yard cut of red fabric from the quilt shop quality. That stuff never stopped bleeding. Once you have the fabric in your stash, what do you do with it? First ask yourself, is it a problem fabric? Is it a bad fabric? Or is it just a fabric that you don't like? Last January, I bought a couple of bags of scraps from the thrift store. They had lots of greens. I was totally excited to make them a scrap quilt. But they also had these. I am not into sports. I am not into the Oregon Ducks or the Oregon Beavers. I am not going to use these in a quilt because no matter how tiny I cut the pieces, these are going to be obviously sporting franchise fabrics. And my first reaction was I was going to put them on the free table at my quilting group and let somebody else who was into sports have them. I still think that that is a great idea, but it occurred to me as I pulled this out to make this video, I've got family who is into sports. And once I figure out if they are into the Ducks or the Beavers, because I know it's one or the other, somebody's getting bowl cozies this Christmas. If fabric is just kind of ugly, sometimes you can cut it down into tiny enough pieces to use it in a quilt if you are a quilter. If it is a sports franchise or a holiday or something that just you are not into, or it is a color that makes your eyes hurt, but it is otherwise good quality fabric, give it to someone else and let it be their project. On the flip side of that, if you have fabric that is really cute but poor quality, that's when we can start getting creative with what do I do with this where I don't have to touch it. Bunting, rag rugs, strips for wrapping bowls. There were all kinds of ideas in my comment section. One thing I have done is line it with fusible interfacing to give it some structure and then make a zipper bag. Sometimes if you line that bag with a slightly better fabric, how often do you touch a project bag that you have to worry about what it feels like? The more I've worked on this video, the more I've come to realize I kind of am a bit of a fabric snob. I did not think I was until I started going, yeah, I could make that, but then I'd have to touch it. Pot holders, aprons. I had a lot of suggestions to make bunting, but those are all going to require fabrics that you don't mind looking at. And if I was going to take the time to make bunting or a pot holder or something like that was going to get some use, I think I would want to use better fabric. Bows on wreaths, maybe. It is hard to think of fabric things that you will not touch. If it's just ugly and really thin, there were suggestions to use it as a muslin for sewing and garment making. That's where you make a trial run out of an inexpensive fabric to make sure that the fit and the seams all work right. You could do that for bag making. You could do that for practice quilt blocks if you're trying a new technique and not sure if you can get those measurements or that inset seam or that curved seam to work properly. You could use it for foundation piecing if you're doing strip blocks. I had a sheet once that was fine, except it was white with one of those very 80s paint spatter designs, and I don't want anything made of that. Some of the other suggestions for fabrics that just don't make your heart sing are reusable shopping bags, curtains. Somebody said that she bought some of the Joann's print in a yellow gingham and it was perfect for their cabin for camping. Someone else suggested me curtains for the garage. I honestly like that idea, but there was a sheet thumbtacked up on our garage window when we bought the house 20 years ago, and I am just not enthusiastic enough to replace it. In the end, what I think it comes down to for me is using this fabric for things where I need fabric to make a thing and it doesn't have to be a pretty thing, or finding ways to salvage the pretty fabric so I can use it for something. But if I want to make a real useful thing, I usually have a fabric on hand that I don't mind too much. And like I said at the beginning, there is no rule that we have to use this stuff up. I would encourage you, if you can, to donate it instead of throwing it away, because what you don't like, somebody else may love. There are, however, fabrics that I find so difficult and annoying that I don't know what to do with them. I had about a dozen yards of gorgeous jewel tone flannel that a friend of a friend gave me. She'd bought them to use for a project that she never did, and she knew I quilted, and I happily accepted them because they looked like great quilt backing. And then I pre-washed them, and they bled. And I washed them 3 or 4 more times, and they kept bleeding, and when I thought it was good enough, I made a little lap quilt with one of them as the backing. The friction dyed the bed of my sewing machine purple. I cannot in good conscience give that quilt away to anyone for anything, not even the Humane Society. I don't think they want to deal with that. And I don't know what to do with the rest of that fabric. So if you have an idea for the most problematic of the problem fabrics, please leave a comment below. Let me know if there's something that we missed in our suggestions, and if you use your less than great fabrics, or if you just get rid of them. Thanks for watching. I'm Michelle. This is my romantic tangle, and I'll be back with you with more videos soon.